sorry to hold you over time, and I would like to take some questions if you want to ask some. Yes, sir?
Comment on the plans like Paul Simpson and Paul Ryan's plans, your view of what impact they might have?
I can't. I haven't, examined them in enough detail to speak with authority about them. I don't get too worked up about different proposals like that, frankly, because almost all of them go by the wayside, or before they're ever enacted into law, they're emasculated or changed so radically that they never pan out. So, life is short, and so I kind of wait to see what they're actually going to do, because I'm not making any bets. If my well-being hinged on those things on a day-to-day basis, if I were, actively in and out of the securities markets every day or something like that, I'd pay more attention. But I don't. Yes, sir.
Your prediction about the future: runaway inflation, depression, recessionary depression, all of the above?
Well, I don't know, of course, what will happen, and furthermore, nobody does. Okay, so I'd like to make that clear. Anything I say about what's going to happen along those lines is a guess, and I think that's all anybody can do. As I mentioned earlier, some aspects of our current situation are utterly unprecedented. We've never had this monetary overhang of a couple of $1 trillion of excess bank reserves sitting in the banking system. If you had asked me 6 years ago, what'll happen if we, overnight ram $2 trillion into the banking system, I'd say, well, it'll take about 48 hours for hyperinflation to drive the value of the dollar to zero. Well, that's so much for my forecasting. They did the base money, and that's not what happened. My dollars are still buying quite a bit. So the purchasing power of the dollar has not been diminished very much, a little bit, not much, because the money supply has increased some, but not very quickly, because the velocity is now at the lowest level since the early 1950s. People are just holding all this cash, and companies are holding massive amounts of cash, and the banks are sitting on all these reserves. So this has never happened before. There's never been anything even close to this before. So when somebody tells you they know how this is going to play out, I don't know how they possibly know. We have no experience with a thing like this. So we can't use any kind of historical model. We just have to kind of speculate. Now, as for hyperinflation, I don't think we can have hyperinflation in this country no matter what, because when the inflation rate gets up to 15 or 20%, the government will clamp on price controls. So, there might be real hyperinflation, but it won't show up in the measured prices because the government won't permit it. Think back to the early 70s, how low the rate of inflation was then when the government panicked and, clamped on price controls. And we had to put up with those ebbing, flowing, damnable wage and price controls from the fall of 71 to the spring of 74. They created all kinds of dislocations in the economy and the shortages of things that shouldn't have been in short supply, and it totally fouled up the energy system, the gasoline distribution system, and countless other things. But that's, in the United States, we're not Brazilians, okay? Brazilians can live with a 50%, 75% rate of inflation because they learned how to survive, how to manage their affairs in a way that allowed them to cope with that kind of falling purchasing power of money. Americans will just panic, and they will demand, and they will get price controls. So I will kind of be firm in ruling out hyperinflation. But my best guess, and I don't have any great confidence in it, is something like stagflation. In this case, more stag probably than inflation. Because, if people are going to hold all this cash because they're afraid, maybe they're going to just keep holding it for a long time. I don't know. I can't understand why these banks are eating the losses they're eating from holding all these excess reserves that are losing real value every hour. There's so much money at stake there. Why are they swallowing those losses? And the only answer I can come up with is they're afraid. They're just afraid of, using them to make loans. So, then the question becomes, when are they going to stop being that afraid? Because the minute they start, releasing a fair portion of what they're sitting on, hell could break loose. You don't need to generate $1 trillion in new bank loans to start rapid inflation at the price level. But I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know, because so many things that were surprises to me have happened in the past 4 years that I don't have confidence in my powers of forecasting. Not that they were ever very great to begin with. Yvonne?
Just speak up in defense of Anna Schwartz, actually, a little bit. She did give an interview in the Wall Street Journal in late 2008, where she was extremely critical of Bernanke and said that Bernanke is misdiagnosing the problem. And of course, as you said, Bernanke thinks that he's doing exactly what Friedman and Schwartz recommended.
Yeah.
But she said that he thinks that the situation is like 1930. It's not. 1930's situation was lack of liquidity.
Yes.
And the Fed could have done something about it.
Right.
But now, or back then in 2008, 2009, the problem was one of insolvency, not illiquidity.
Right.
And therefore, all of this pumping up of the money supply is not going to do a damn bit of difference. I think she called it right.
Yeah.
So, even though she did not go back on what she thought back then, she actually did have a much more subtle understanding of these issues.
Yeah.
And in fact, de facto, embraced the Austrian business cycle theory. I heard from some other people that heard her speak around that same time, and she was given an explanation that is basically the Recession story.
Yeah, your point is well taken. In the last few years, Anna did speak or write on a number of occasions where she had kind of modified her views in light of current circumstances. I'm not aware that she ever retracted anything about the Great Depression.
No.
So I just don't know about that. But no, I think Anna was very astute. Some of us, David and I, were at a conference in New York a couple of years ago, I guess, and Anna came and she was very frail, but her mind was not frail, and she really gave a good whooping to Bernanke on that occasion. And even though she had to have a guy under each arm to carry her in and out of the room, she was still really feisty, and her mind was 100% fine. So, I just loved her, actually. And not just because she wrote blurbs for my books. I don't want you to spread that story. No. Some of the topics I've been discussing here are discussed in my latest book, Delusions of Power.
I wish it had been recorded.
It is recorded.
It is recorded. This is recorded.
Yeah, this is going to be played on America's Funniest Economists. Yeah, Charles.
Can you say something for the young people here? I mean, I'm very, very distressed about the liabilities and instability that young people are inheriting from us.
Yes.
And you've got an audience here of
And the debts.
yeah, the debts. I mean, I don't know what to say about their situation, but could you sort of like reflect upon what they should do or how they should think about this? Or
Pray.
Well, I think there are a lot of things young people would be well advised to do. I don't like to give advice to people, personal advice. I'm not going to tell you why I don't like to do that, but I just don't think it would be any good. But I'll give you kind of general advice. which is, I think that the kind of world we live in now is one that's going to require you over the course of your lifetimes to do a lot of adjusting of a kind that people didn't have to do historically. People have always had to make adjustments of some kind or another to the course of economic events. So it's not that people in the past didn't have to make adjustments, but the world is now very globalized, more so than ever before, and things happen very quickly sometimes in today's world. And I think it behooves young people to sort of think outside the nation state. Okay? Not outside the box, but outside the nation state. Think, for example, about the possibility that you won't live out your life in the United States of America. That you might, in fact, do better for yourself and the families that you have someday somewhere else in the world. And that may require you to prepare to be successful somewhere else. I'm not telling you to move to China, but I'm not telling you not to move to China either. Okay? You might think about lots of places. I very much believe that the political system of this country is rotten to the core, that it's being ruined steadily by the political class that runs it. And so I don't think the future is brightest here. Now, there are rapacious politicians all over the world, so it's not as if you can go just anywhere you throw a dart with your eyes closed at a map. But you need to take into account more possible opportunities in the world than just those that will exist for you here. I really don't envy you, frankly. I mean, the world of the future will certainly be better in some ways that I can't even dream of. But there are ways that I can dream of in which I think it's going to be worse. And you're going to have to cope with those. You're going to have to make adjustments. So if I were a young person, I would be probably learning some languages, trying to decide which ones those were. That would give me flexibility, moving around the world, working in different kinds of callings. I would try to acquire skills that were not highly specific so that my skills would carry over from one industry to another, from one country to another. I would think in terms of how I could make myself productive in a way that's highly flexible and adaptable. And that can be done in a multitude of different ways. It very much can be something that you adopt to fit your own tastes and the kind of life you want to live. And people are all different in that regard. So, it's not like a recipe that I'm giving you where you do A, B, C, D. You have a lot of choices still to make, but if they move you in the direction of thinking more broadly, considering options in more parts of the world, being flexible in your skills and your experience, I think you'll be well served by that. And it may be that you look around in the meanwhile and see somebody who's highly specialized and they're doing very well for themselves right now. Just remember, that may not last forever. And chances are indeed that it won't last forever. And they'll have to make adjustments too, and when that time comes, they may not be so well prepared as you will be. So that's the kind of general advice I'm willing to offer. Is there a question over here? Yeah.
It's hard to ask a question after such a statement such as that. But in your experience, do you see the governance of any states as raising any positive hopes for the way a particular governor or legislature or executive branch of that state has been handling the problems that the states all have as well?
Yeah. Well, obviously some do better than others. Some are utterly rotten. California is one of the most rotten managed states of the 50, obviously. That's no secret of mine. Illinois is another basket case. And you're looking here at states that once were the pride and joy of the Union. When When my family moved to California in 1951, this was the Golden State. This is where we came here because prospects were better here for ordinary people than other places. But it's not, you know, I'm not saying you can't come here and improve your well-being. Lots of people do it. But, you know, it works better if you come here from some village in Mexico and, you know, you better yourself with a job in East LA. Okay? That'll improve your well-being, okay. But there are a lot of people who are not starting out from that kind of position. It's going to take a lot more for them to improve themselves. And I think Texas seems to have done a better job at the state level than most states. In fact, I'm not sure any of them have done better, except by luck. You know, right now there's energy boom going on in the Upper Plains states and the Dakotas and Montana with the shale gas and oil. So, you know, that's like a windfall. It makes the politicians up there look like geniuses because the energy guys went out and found how to get oil and gas out of the ground economically. And I'm just praying that their, you know, barriers won't be put in their way while they're doing it. But of course, that's an ever-present threat because the environmentalists hate energy, and they've been trying ever since the 1960s to do one thing or another to suppress energy production and use. And, you know, modern rich countries rely on a high rate of energy use. There's just no way around that. So unless you want to live in, you know, primeval poverty, you got to produce energy. And the politicians have been very responsive, I think, way out of proportion to the number of people, but the environmentalists have been smart. You know, there are a lot of lawyers in the ranks of the environmentalists. They learn how to obstruct projects. They learn how to, you know, get in the way of all the permit processes that you have to go through. And nowadays, if you want to build anything that has to do with energy, you probably have to have 50, 60, 70 different kinds of permits from different state, local, and federal agencies. So it's a wonder anything ever gets done, frankly. In countries like Mexico, where I'm going to move in a couple of years, you know, the government is totally corrupt. Okay, but everybody knows that, so they just deal with it. You don't get impeded, you just pay the guy what it's going to take, straight off. Okay? And you go ahead with your project. It's that simple. It's harder in this country because, you know, you can't just go and pay a straightforward bribe every time. It gets you in trouble sometimes. And so in a way, the more corrupt countries are better positioned because they don't have the kind of uncertainty about corruption that we have in this country. Their corruption takes it in more, you know, straightforward, sensible, quantitative, you know, peso form, you know. Here you got to go round and round and round and master the regulatory process and so forth. There you just make the payment and go ahead. Hunky-dory. I bought a property recently in Mexico, and my lawyer had a budget when I started working with him, and when I was asking him, you know, what's this for, what's this for, what's this for, there was a line in the budget called fix money. I said, Alfonso, what is this fix money? And he's kind of sheepish. He says, well, yeah, he says, this is what I pay the clerks in these places where we have to register documents and so forth. Because if I give them a little money, you know, they'll do it in a week or 2 weeks. But if I don't, it might take 6 months. So it's better if we pay them. And of course, I sort of knew that. I just wanted to get it from the lawyer's mouth. But it was better, you see. That's how things happen. But our country's not so good like that. It's got some people who actually want to be honest, you know, bureaucrats following the rules. And those people are extremely dangerous because the rules are rotten. And if somebody follows all of them, they can bring almost all of economic life to a halt.
Thank you, Bob. I'm sure that everyone would have loved to hear you go on for a lot longer. Thank you again for joining with us. We do have some copies of some of Bob's books in the back. If you're interested in getting a copy, you might even be willing to autograph them. And thank you for joining with us. Have a safe trip back.